Morning, everybody. Got caught out again. Oh, I don't know. Slow as a wet week today. I'll tell you what, it's not a good day. Good morning, everybody, and good evening to John Power in the US.
And to Bernie.
And
hello to Bernie yet.
And Bernie, oh yes, hello Bernie. I haven't typed anything up for you today this morning, but yeah, like I said, got caught out. And Skip. Good evening to Skip. I saw your comment on Instagram the other day. I agree. I'm good with that. So, yeah. Anyhow, last week there was a comment about something that I made that I thought I'd better redress or say something about anyway. I made this little template last week, and that's the template that I used to make the rebates for the glasses to sit in. Okay, so that was like that, but there was an issue with using one of the small trimmer routers, and that was that the base of the trimmer router was actually smaller than the rebate in here. So I talked about making, just flick over to Pammy's camera. Say good day to Pammy, everybody. She's on the end of the camera there. So,
Hi, everyone.
So what I did was I made a little platform for my trimmer router. Now, I know you can buy those. The problem with the ones that I've seen online is that they're twice the size or 3 times the size. And working on something this small is not always going to work. So what I've done is I basically just adapted somebody else's idea and built my own little platform to suit the work that I'm doing. And when we go back to the thinking about design, because that's what we're basically talking about, excuse me, sometimes developing your own tools or developing an addition to one of your tools is part of the design process. So we've developed this little template to do a purpose. Now I'll keep that forever because I'll label it later and work through that. But that's the idea of it. It's try and sort of develop the ideas from whatever you've got. Now, not everybody can afford to go and buy pieces. Not everybody can wait long enough to get one sent to them online. So there's a multitude of different problems. Again, the expense. This is just a cheap piece of plastic. That's all it was to start with. So I've developed a tool that I could probably use in the future, or if I'm going to make multiple little cabinets like this, I've got something that I can sort of refer back to every time I do a platform. So that's the idea. Right, today, what we're going to do is, and I haven't got my little red one because it's sitting at a place where it's for sale, but what we're going to do is we're going to develop this thing here. Now, that little shelf, this is something that Jim Carroll said, are you going to build a shelf? And I thought about the shelf, and I thought, shelf, it's actually a support for the glass. So the idea is to give the glass some support so it doesn't move around. So we have to work out what we're going to do with it. The one on the little, the red cabinet, the other cabinet that I built, it's basically just straight across here. This one's got a little bit of shape to it. So we're going to work on that as well. Again, it's redeveloping or redesigning something that you've already built. If you've built the first one, and then you can go into a second one and have a little bit of a play with it and redesign it. But it has a purpose. So we've got to make that. Now, how do we fit that? Now, I could just put that straight into there, and I could glue it here and here. Got to get it at the right height, of course, so it sits up at the right place. But there is a function for this thing, and that is that, first of all, the little hole in here is tapered the same shape as the stem of the glass. so that when you put the glass in it, you have to lift it to get it in and then drop it down because it's thinner at the bottom part of the glass. This is part of a design process, part of thinking about what your design is going to do. So lift and come out. So that's got to be thought about as well, and how we're going to design that. So where do we put it for a start? How high up there? We've got to work on that as well. Now, I have a measurement for that because I've been fiddling around with this thing for the last 3 weeks. And on my double one, this is my platform. Now, this is an integral part of your design. We've built the platform. We've got to make sure that our support, this is the one that the dummy one that I made for the other cabinet, is at the right height. So it's got to be at the right height, and it's got to be sitting over the centre of our support there, because when we put that in there, the centre of the stem has to be thought about. So this has actually got to fit in, well, this is not going to fit in that one anyway, but you get the idea. The idea is to make it sit in like so. So it's got to be there somewhere.
You've got it on the pencil mark.
Yeah. So what I've done, I've already drawn myself a pencil mark. I've got one here and one across there. What I need to do is I need to cut a rebate into there. Now if I turn the cabinet around, the depth of my cut for, and I had a piece here somewhere and I can't remember where I've put it. That's not a good idea, not a good thought. No, that's not it. I've lost my piece of timber that I had. Oh, here it is. I found it. I found it. Stop looking, folks. This is going to go in here, and what it needs to be is needs to be recessed into the rebate that I have on both sides. So that's going to fit in about there somewhere.
So a rebate and a rebate.
I'm going to rebate a rebate. Well, that's an idea. Never thought of that. Although Skip and JB, what do you call it? Rabbits. Rabbits?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they call it rabbits. Yep. We're going to rebate it. Australian way. Okay, so we have to get that the right height. I've already got that marked, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how I cut the rebate for a piece of material here. How's the sound, Dave?
There's a slight buzz.
Slight buzz? Oh, I don't know what it is. I've fiddled around with it and fiddled around with it, and I'm still not getting an answer. I'll probably have to work on that.
Brian Luckin says, don't talk about it.
Okay. Okay, so pull that apart. Now, before you pull it apart, this is very important. Mark the two corners that go together. Okay, so those two corners are going to go together. Normally I don't use a pencil, but I'm using it this time so that you can see what I've done. And we just have to make sure that we get that right. Pull it apart. You notice that I'm supporting the piece of timber when I'm disassembling. Very important that you do that. If you just reef it apart, there's a good chance you're going to damage something. If you've cut your dovetails correctly, it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, so I don't need those two bits. What I need is this bit here. And so
Skip wants to know, can he use that term, rebate?
certainly can, certainly can. You can almost become an Aussie by using terms that we use over here, mate. Now you'll notice that I have these, if I line them up correctly, and put the square on there. Okay, you can see I've got my lines goes pretty much straight across there.
Oh, did you mention that we were running a fan last
No, I didn't. We've had to put the fan on lately, so that might be
Don't know whether that's interfering.
interfering. I don't think so. It's only an electrical tool. It shouldn't. Okay, so that's the top of my rebate. So I'm going to rebate this way 8 millimetres. Now the reason I've gone 8 mil is because my shelf is only 8 mil. I don't need anything really, really big or really thick to support the glass. All it needs to be is just enough to be able to hold onto the glass. And I'm going to cut my rebate with a tool that I had developed for another purpose. I'm going to use my 8 mil router bit. So that's what I'm going to use to do that. Now, how do we get this so that it fits exactly onto that size? What I did was, just come in on this one, Pammy. I cut a rebate with my 8 millimetre router bit and a piece of scrap MDF. And then I dressed my piece of timber down so that it fits perfectly into that rebate. Okay, so that gave me the perfect fit. So again, what we've done, we've gone and built ourselves a jig for a purpose, and that jig has actually got something we can keep that if you want, or you can throw it away, make a new one on your next project, whatever. But just making things a little easy for yourself. Now, when I measured this up, and I've got to go back to my drawings, I measured up my shelf was 197 by 65 by 8 mil thick. All right, so that was added to, and remember these are only rough, they can be changed, and they will get changed when we sort of put the whole lot together at the end. I had my foot was 180 by 96 by 10 mil thick material. My shelf is 197 by 65 by 8. That's what this is going to end up as. I've got it the right length. All I have to do is cut the 65 mil piece off there. So I'll do that later. So I've got that marked. And on my drawing, which I used here, all of this stuff adds up. So it's important that you start adding it on as you go. The distance from the top of the foot plate on the shelf is 117 millimetres to the top. So I've marked and measured that. And the thickness of the rebate is 8 mil. And I haven't worried about putting the measurement in the depth, because the depth's going to be dictated by whatever size the rebate is in the back, where the back is. Okay, so we're not going to worry too much about that. I'll just set the height, but I'm starting to add to my notes. You can see the notes are starting to build. I've got 3 pages of notes here. Looks a bit scruffy, but I understand it because I'm going through the process of building it, and that's what design is all about. So we've got that sorted.
Michael House wants to know, do you use drum sander to get the exact thickness?
Yes, I do.
Material?
Yeah,
so tell me, do you use drum
Michael, I do use a drum sander to get the perfect thickness. If you don't have a drum sander, then and you have a thicknesser, make sure your thicknesser is set very, very fine so that you can get it down. You can give it what you can do is thickness it down until it's almost 8 millimetres, and then use a hand sander to sand it down so that it fits perfectly. So there's a number of different techniques you use, and not everybody can afford a drum sander, not everybody can afford a thicknesser, but you do the best you can with the tools that you have. And there again lies the thing, look out for or try and work your design around the tools that you do have. Like I said, not everybody's rich enough to be able to afford a reasonably big workshop. I know I can't afford half the tools that I've got, but Okay, so the height for this, for my rebate.
You've got a good bookkeeper, that's why you can afford it.
So Pammy reckons I've got a good bookkeeper. She's probably right.
Yeah, I'm always
Oh,
right.
she's always right, of course. Okay, so all I've done is set the height to the height of my rebate. And like I said, that height there that I didn't add to the design plan is dictated by whatever depth you put your rebate in. You don't have to go halfway, you can go a quarter away, a small amount of material taken off. Depends on your sizing. Okay, so I've got that done. I need a square. I need a fence.
Thank you, Michael.
What's he saying?
Multi-talented.
Okie doke. Now, if you look at my fence, you can see on my fence I've got some markings done. And what I want to do is show you how I've gone about getting the right depth. Now, I don't want to go all the way across my piece of timber. I only want to go across 60 millimetres. Right? So coming into there so that I can put a little step on the end of it, and when it sits in there, it's going to look quite nice when it sits in. So it'll look like that. So you'll see that I've marked on my fence, this is the fence that I used, I've already marked my 60 millimetre markings. Probably not right, but this one is and that one is, and I put 60 millimetres on, and you can scrub them off again if you like later down the track. But I've got to get the right distance first. It takes a little bit of a fiddle. And some of these things you'll think of after the fact. And so that's the top edge. So when we set that up, just come around to here, Penny, so you can see that. I'll flush up against my fence here. And my rebate I'm on the outside of my router bit. I'm going to push it that way. I'm on the outside of my router bit. And that means that my marker, or the line I have on there, is at the top of the rebate. So I've got that there. I'm going to lock that into place. Now what I want to do is I only want to go to 60 mil. Okay, so that will go to there, not this one. This one's going to start there and come off. This one will start here and come on till I get to 60. I think that's how I did it.
Well, you'll soon find out.
Got to get this one right. 60 mil. Okay, let me go back to basics. I've got to come in 60 millimetres. So using my LARK tool, I can go to there. And I've got to come into I'm just confusing myself.
So is that right now?
I hope so.
outside mark is gold. You need that.
Yes. Okay, I've got to go 60 millimetres from that mark. And that's what I have there. So what I need is a stop. Okay, I'm on my mark. And this is that one. I don't think that's right. Oh, yes it is.
Yep.
Oh, no, it's not. It's got to be more than 60 mil. See what I mean about design work? When you start fiddling around with things, you've got to think through everything and get it right.
Check measure.
Check measure, you're right. Check measure. Okay, so that should give me 60 millimetres to that mark there.
That's better.
Okay, so my first cut is going to go through there and I'm going to stop on my stop. And then we have to figure out the other one, make sure we get it right too, because we want these to be exactly the same distance in here. So, ears on everybody.
So you've actually got two measurements. You've actually got two measurements to get absolutely accurate.
Yes.
You've got the height and then you've got the depth.
Yep.
And the length. It's actually three.
Pretty close. It's actually gone 65, so that extra millimetre, a few millimetres wasn't, had my measurement back to front. Check measure, that's what they say. So that one's going all the way to there. The other one has to start there and come off. So this one will start here and come off because we've got to go this way. So I'll have to drop it on and then move it back. So if I do the same measurement, just make sure I'm getting the right edge of the router bit. Pencil. That distance there, incidentally, is 8 mil.
Make sure you use the right mark.
Yes, I've got to use this one. And that's to my Do you know, I've done this a half a dozen times and now I'm having a little bit of a struggle with it. So my distance from here okay. I'll get it. I'll get it. We don't always have this sort of problems, but this is just one of those things. I wasn't quite ready for it, everything to happen, but anyway. It's got to be the right end. Now we got it. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to sit that there, drop that on, and just push that off there. That out of the way, that out of the way, that out of the way.
Righto, let's do it.
Ears on, everybody. I love it when a plan comes together. Looks pretty right to me. Okay, let's put it together and see how it looks. You can see how it can become quite confusing if you're not writing things down. Now, I didn't write down any of the information necessary to actually build that rebate. And you know, I should have. But it's worked out in the end anyway. So there's my rebate. This is my shelf that's going to fit into there. A little bit furry there at the moment. Just needs a bit of a sand up. And there you have the start of the shelf. Okay, so that will go there. There's my glasses fit. Okay, so you can see the shelf is actually starting to fit in there quite nicely. And it's going to look a bit like that. I've just got to shape all the front of it, drill the holes, put them in the right place, do all that sort of stuff. So that's our next task. So the timber that I need a piece of timber that'll go 65 mil, at least 65. I might even make it a bit more for the bigger cabinet to give it a bit more support. So let's take a measure. I tell you what, this LARK tool is just a handy little gadget for things like this. It's a tight little spot. I think what I might do is I might make this one 70. That'll give me a little bit of a 5 mil overlap. So you don't have to come out all the way. So I'm just going to come out 70 from the back of the panel. Okay, so if I just cut this at 70 mil, and then I can put a little step in there like this. I can put a little step in the end of it so that when it sits in the rebate, you can't actually see any of the rebate. So it'll sit in there like that. So 70 mil is my width. So I go and cut that, find the nicest piece of this timber. So 70 mil. Incidentally, what I did here was I cut myself a full length of the rose mahogany. So if I make an error with that, I've got something to back it up with afterwards. Just another piece of rose mahogany, similar sort of colouring. It's a little bit narrow, beautiful piece of timber. So that will look quite nice. But if I don't use it for this job, I'll use it for something else. And one of the things that I do with that is when I cut them, on the end of the piece of timber, and this is really handy, this is rose mahogany. I hope you can read upside down. So I write on the end of it like that, and I'll have 8 millimeters. So I'll just write that on the bottom of the piece of timber so that when I come to pick it up again, I know exactly what I'm looking for, and I'm not searching around trying to figure out my sizes of material. It's just a handy little hint. Okay, here we go. So I'll just check that measurement. That's 70 mil. Yep. Ears on. Okay, now I need to cut a little step in the front edge, and this is the easiest way to do it. Let's just put your mark in here. Put a little mark there. So I'm going to cut this piece off the corner.
Are you going to cut that with, chisel?
No, I'll cut that with a saw on the vise. So I'm going to wander over to the vise. Okay. So I'm just marking the edges. I could use my bandsaw to cut this, but I'm not going to. It's just such a small piece. I have these beautiful little Japanese tools, so we're going to wander over to my vise. Go very carefully with that. You don't want to snap the piece off. Tidy up the corner. They're great little saw, these ones. If you're in Sydney, anywhere near Japanese tools, in Cogra, there is a link on our site to Japanese tools. Just scroll down a bit and they're a pull saw, so as you can see, quite a delicate little cut here. I don't think I've cut enough. What's going on here? Haven't cut it straight, that's the problem. Better. There we go. Let's go and see if that fits. Okay. May need to attack that with a bit of a chisel, but we'll see. taken off one edge. Try it again. I need to take a little more off. So what I want is I want it to be flush with the back of there, so that when we put the back in there, that's what's going to hold it in place, because it won't get glued in, it'll just sit in there. But you can see what we've got. We've got something that's starting to look a little bit more like our cabinet, and our back will go onto here, like so, and quite a nice fit for everything. Okay, so things are starting to fit together quite nicely. So we're getting there. Just got to take a little bit more off this. Haven't quite got enough off. Because I'm cutting with the grain, just got to go very carefully.
Just give a closer look at the vise.
That's a HNT Gordon vise. Probably the best vise on the market nowadays. And Terry Gordon and his family make those vices. So we'll take a bit more out. A beautiful vice.
Bit of man jewellery.
Man jewellery, yes. Is somebody asking about that, Penny?
Yeah, I just comment on how lovely it looks. Skip was asking, is it a pattern maker's vice?
That's correct, yes it is. It's a pattern maker's vice. Still not getting the result I want in here. It's not playing the game.
That's because you're on camera.
I'll get it. You might also notice I rarely use a mallet with a hammer, a mallet with a chisel. Most of my chisels are all palm chisels anyway, and they're designed not to be hit with a mallet. Okay, so that's that bit done, and we put the back in it. If I just put the clamp on that just to hold it in place, you can actually see what's happening. So you can see in here, when you come into here, we've got a flush at the front here, and this is quite a nice fit. So we've got a nice clean fit all the way around inside there. All I need to do now is drill a couple of holes here so that we can put the stem of the glass in there. Now, how do we work that out? Well, the stem of the glass is generally in the centre of the glass. Now if you've cut your rebate on your foot plate in the correct place, it should be in the centre of your little cabinet. So the centre of that rebate will be the centre line for the holes in the top of there. So that will fit in the centre. Okay? So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to find that centre. Now, this is where we go back to our plan. Just take it off there so we don't knock something over. When we go back to our plan, this is our foot plate. And the measurements we have for it from the back of the foot plate to the centre of the hole is 48 millimetres. From the side of the foot plate to the centre is the same. Well, in this case, I've got 47. I actually remeasured it and it's 48. So I've got my rebate in the centre of each of those areas. So it's actually that one, I should change that to a 48. So that's 48. So we're 48 from the side, 48 from the back, not from the front, because remember this is only 70 millimetres wide. So whatever it is, we've got to work from the back and from the sides. And the sides are, I'll just mark those so that we get them in the right place. We may not get time. I might get this drilled, but I think that's about all we're going to get done today. But I'll show you how we mark it out. Now on my foot plate, I have a centre mark in the centre of each of those. Now you need to have those centre marks so that you can get your measurements anyway. I've also got the squaring marks that I put on when I originally started and set up. So those squaring marks were the marks that I used for my template. So those marks are there. So that it's pretty easy to get your centre mark for that. So, but it's going to be 48 from the back and 48 from the side will give you that centre mark. That's in this case. So whatever you're designing, go back to some of the parts that you've made earlier, and then you can figure out measurements that are necessary for additional bits and pieces. Now, my 48 has to come from my mark because that's the outside edge of that. And when you stick that onto there, you can see that this is the same length from line to line, not from outside to outside, because remember that part sits in the rebate, from line to line, and then we'll get our 48. Actually, it's probably better if I do it this way, it's more accurate. 10, 20, 30, 48. From there. 10, 20, 30, 48. There. This is another quality tool that I use, and I use extensively, and it's a Terry Gordon square. You can see it's a chunky little tool. It's Cole Clanton. What did I say?
Terry Gordon.
Oh, Terry Gordon. Oh gosh, no, Cole Clanton tool. Cole, no. Skin me alive for saying that.
It's just because they're buddies.
All right. Yeah, this is this tool is actually adjustable. So if things skip out a little bit, you can adjust it by working with the screws. But it's a really classy tool. Finding our centre. Again, 48. Okay, so that's given me now if I drilled a tiny little hole there and a tiny little hole there, what I would find is when I sit it on top of here, and you can actually see there's my centre mark and there's my centre mark for that one, and they're lined up perfectly with my line work. So I need to drill a hole there, and when we set it this way, I haven't gone all the way, but I know that I can see the line actually carries through. So we're flush at the back here and the line will carry straight through. So it's just a matter of drilling those two holes. So let's get that sorted. Now the diameter of this, if you look at the taper, you can see that it tapers quite steep, and this will be up where that is. The bottom part of it is actually 13 millimeters in diameter at the bottom. So that'll be at the bottom edge of there, and we need to expand the top of it. And we'll talk about that when time comes for that. But I don't think we're going to get time to do that today, but we will get our 13 mil holes drilled. So over to the drill press, and I've got a Forstner bit rather than just a standard drill bit, because the Forstner bit will give me a lot cleaner cut. Check to see that I've got it in the right place. And you can see I've got a really clean cut from the Forstner bit. Just making sure I've got that in the right place. So that's when I put that over the top of there, put that in the right place. I can actually see that the centres of my holes are right in the middle of those there. Now you can't see that on camera because it's so, I don't know if you can see in there, it's too dark in there when you look at it, but I know it's in the centre anyway, so that's what's going to happen. And when we put it together, where's my box? So what we want to do now is I want to get our sketch fixed up, our drawings fixed up, so that we're not doing what I was doing earlier, which is battling to figure out the information. And you can see now we're starting to create and get a result. So if I go back to my drawings, what I need is a drawing of the plate. Piece of paper is not much good. And I'll use a dark pencil so we got it.
Yeah,
so I won't get into trouble. Now we can actually draw this actual size. So the length of our piece of timber, 197 by, and we've changed that to a 70, not a 60, so we're changing our measurements as we go. So 197. 70. Now, it may not be square, but that's okay. It's only a sketch. It's only a drawing. I'm doing it the actual size so that I can get all my measurements correct. May not be square. Now, if you don't have one of those fancy computer things, I jest, where you can have that fancy drawing system called CAD, computer-aided drawing, then this is adequate. Okay, so we're 48. By 48. I hope I'm not boring you. We're 48 this way. But this is the important thing. This is the thing that I keep getting asked questions. Can I have a plan for that? Develop it yourself. Easy peasy. That's my centre mark. Centre for the hole. Centre for the hole. Now, if I remember rightly, we cut a little bit out of these as well. It was 8 mil, wasn't it?
Yep.
So I can actually, no, it's not. No, it's not.
It's a bit more.
It's a bit less. It's 5 mil. Okay, so we've got a 5 mil rebate. That's what I'd forgotten. Okay. Remember, these are only rough sketches, so it doesn't matter if it's not perfect. Oh, that one's not perfect, no, by a long shot. It doesn't matter. The point is, we've got a pictorial image of what we're trying to achieve. Okay, so that's going to be cut off. This is going to be cut off. And then it's just a matter of putting in some measurements. So it's nearly time to go, folks, so we're going to stop here.
Yep.
And so all I'm doing is just putting in measurements, and I'll have this all drawn up with all the measurements on it. What was it?
Do you know what Dave's doing this week?
No, I don't actually. I haven't been fiddling with social media this week, so I'm not quite sure what he's up to. Somebody asking?
No, I was just plugging Dave.
Ah, okay.
You can stop now, Cole. It's 11 o'clock.
Yep. So there we have pretty much our second plan. Okay, so that's the glasses support. Shelf. And we'll get that done there. Okay, so as you can see, planning, it's not easy. I don't know if you can see that. Yes, you can. Look at that. So we're getting there. So the next step is to shape this part of it here, and we'll do that next week. So we'll get that all sorted so that we've got the box. Then we'll glue the box together and tidy it up for fitting of the door. Okay, so we have to make the door, and that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. So anyway, we're getting there, little bit by little bit. As I said before, planning is not that simple. That's it. But it can be. Depends on what you're making it for. Now I'm making it for something that's really complicated. I probably should have started with something a little bit more simple, but anyway, we're halfway through or nearly through the process now anyway, so we'll just continue and get that sort of thing done. So have a good week, everybody, and take care, and I will see you all next week. If you have any questions, by all means, send us an email, put a comment on the show, or do something like that. But if you haven't subscribed, also subscribe and you can get a notification. Okay, so have a good one, everybody, and I will see you all next week.